If your anxiety seems to come out of nowhere, like one day you're totally fine and the next you're on edge, easily triggered, or you just can't stop your heart and mind from racing, you're not alone. I used to think that it was just stress or hormones or me being too sensitive. But here's what I've come to learn. Anxiety and depression can also be connected to what we eat and what our body does with that food. Hi, I am Ryan, a keto coach and certified advocate through the Metabolic Terrain Institute of Health. And I work with people who are struggling with metabolic issues, and I help them feel better by making simple changes to how they eat and live. In today's video, we are going to talk about foods that can actually support your mental health. And I'll walk you through what I personally eat, the brands I like, and how I keep it all really simple. This is meant to be practical and doable, not overwhelming. So before we get into the food, here's a little background. Anxiety and depression aren't always just about emotions or mental stress. There's a strong connection between your brain, your gut, and your blood sugar. So when your blood sugar swings too high or too low, or when your gut isn't functioning well, it can affect your mood and make anxiety worse. Research also shows that chronic inflammation and oxidative stress can play a big role in how we feel mentally. Inflammation in the gut can damage the lining of the intestines, allowing harmful substances like endotoxins to enter the bloodstream. And this can trigger an immune response, which affects the brain and contributes to feelings of anxiety and depression. Over 90% of your serotonin is made in the gut. So when your gut is inflamed or your microbiome is out of balance, it can interfere with how serotonin is produced and how well it works in your body. That disruption can lead to mood swings, poor sleep, irritability, and increased anxiety, all because the brain isn't getting the signals it needs to stay balanced. So where does that inflammation come from? Well, it can be triggered by things like high sugar intake, ultra-processed foods, poor sleep, unmanaged stress, and even hidden food sensitivities. And over time, those stressors can weaken the lining of your gut. It's sometimes called leaky gut, which lets unwanted particles into your bloodstream. And that triggers inflammation throughout the body, including your brain, and it can lead to a loop where both your physical and mental health suffer. So I'll drop links to a few studies in the description if you want to read more. So how do these foods actually help? Well, most of the foods I'm about to share help reduce inflammation, support gut health, or provide the nutrients that your brain needs to function well. And all of that plays a role in how you feel mentally. So when you nourish your gut, you're also supporting the production and function of neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA, both of which help regulate your mood. And these foods also help stabilize blood sugar, which is huge for reducing those emotional highs and crashes. So let's talk through some of the foods that I lean on regularly that support my mood, gut, and energy in real ways. So first up are eggs. They are a great source of B vitamins, choline, and tryptophan, which your body needs to make serotonin.
So now I'm going to show you one of my favorite ways to make eggs. So I like to add in some red onion, some bell pepper, some jalapeno. I cook that down for a bit and then whisk in some eggs. I add that to a little bit more butter that I add to the pan. And I wait for that to set up. And once it's set up, I will kind of scramble it a little bit. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of cheese. I like my eggs kind of dry.
So while they don't directly support gut health, they are incredibly helpful for brain function and neurotransmitter production. So I buy pasture-raised eggs when I can, and I make them in all different kinds of ways. Scrambled, boiled, even egg muffins. They're quick, they're easy, and supportive for brain health. So next up are leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula, and I rotate through whatever I have on hand. Some greens, we're gonna start with some olive oil. I'm using these, this is good for salads, but also for cooking. and not having to trim. And so super simple. We're gonna add our garlic, and then we're gonna toss in our greens. Add some salt, a little onion powder, and a little bit of homemade bone broth. So each week I like to make a jar of bone broth in my Instant Pot. I have a video on this, I'll link here, so you can check it out. Really easy to make, full of collagen, great for skin, nails, hair, for your gut lining. So these greens are full of folate and magnesium, which help your body regulate stress. And they also contain prebiotic fiber, which feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut and supports a healthy microbiome. So I won't lie, I love greens, but I find them kind of a pain to prep. So I usually buy the pre-washed, trimmed kind, and then I saute them in olive oil with garlic, bone broth, salt, and pepper. And speaking of broth, this is where bone broth makes a regular appearance in my routine. So I drink it often, and it's one of those quiet powerhouse foods that doesn't get talked about enough. So bone broth is rich in collagen and amino acids like glycine and glutamine. And those help support the gut lining and reduce inflammation. It's especially helpful for calming an irritated digestive system and helping the body repair. So I use it to cook veggies or just warm it up and sip it throughout the day. So it's comforting, it's nourishing, and it's easy on your digestion. So then we've got fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, plain yogurt, or kefir.
This is my favorite brand of kimchi. Sunja's not too spicy, it's pretty good. So Bubby's is my favorite brand of sauerkraut. It's just cabbage, water, and salt. That's all it is, fermented. So good. My first choice for kefir would be a raw kefir, but that's kind of hard to find sometimes. So I go with this Trader Joe's brand that's pretty good. In 1 cup, it has 11 grams of carbs. So it's a little higher in carbs, but you don't need to drink a full cup. Couple tablespoons.
So these are full of probiotics, which help restore balance in the gut microbiome, and they strengthen your gut lining. That can help reduce inflammation and improve the way your body produces and uses neurotransmitters like serotonin. So walnuts are another one that I keep on hand. They are a good source of omega-3s and polyphenols.
Any brand of walnuts would do. I like organic from 365. This is Whole Foods Market. I like to store these in the freezer, and it keeps them from going rancid.
Which help reduce inflammation and also support a healthier gut environment. There's one study that showed people who ate a small handful of walnuts each day had lower rates of depression. So I find that they give me a good midday energy boost. So now let's talk about fish. So fatty fish like salmon and sardines are rich in omega-3s, which are well known for supporting mental health and reducing inflammation. But I'll be honest, I don't eat seafood. I've tried it and it's just not for me. So I take a high quality omega-3 supplement instead. Right now I'm using one from Adapt Naturals and it works really well for me. So if you're like me and fish isn't your thing, you've got some options. And finally, there's dark chocolate. Yes, really. I like to keep a square or two of 85% or higher dark chocolate around. It is rich in magnesium, which supports relaxation, and it also contains polyphenols that act like prebiotics, helping to feed good gut bacteria. It can be a helpful little treat for your mood and your microbiome. Just keep your eye on the sugar content. The darker, the better. So you don't have to overhaul your entire diet to feel better. Even just adding 1 or 2 of these foods regularly can start to make a difference. So it's not about perfection, it's about support. So start with what feels manageable and build from there. So if you found this helpful and want to take the next step into low carb or keto for mental and metabolic health, check out this video next and I'll walk you through how to get started without the overwhelm.